Here's how to stop getting garbage out of AI for construction projects. So there's 3 barriers to getting consistent high quality output. Barrier number 1 is context rot. And what this basically means is the more data you feed into an AI model, what they refer to as context, the more you increase the chance of hallucination and mistakes. So context is both a combination of the amount of data you give an AI model, but also the amount of reasoning you get it to do. For example, if I upload a 30 megabyte set of drawings and I ask it what is the specifications on the material coding we need, the chance that it gets this wrong is going to be much higher than if we upload one single drawing. Or if I ask AI prepare an estimate for my construction project, it has to do a multi-step complicated process. And there's basically a percentage chance that at each step in this process, it is going to get that wrong. So there's a couple ways you can overcome this when you're dealing with construction projects with big sets of documents. The first one is what I refer to as AI hygiene, which is every time you get AI to do, or every time you want a new task done, you start a new chat. Because as you go through and create a chat, each message you send it, each response it gets, all of this gets loaded into the context window. The second is to do what I refer to as context curation. And that's where instead of having AI to access each individual document to convert document PDFs to text and all go through all these steps, you simply create a project MD file, which is a summary of all your project documents that AI can search when it does every task, makes it much more efficient at finding the information it needs to use and overall using much less context. So barrier number 2 to high quality AI output is generic training data. When you actually look how these models were trained, they were trained on things like Reddit, Wikipedia, YouTube, Google, Facebook, all these different sources of data. So if you ask AI, for example, what a reasonable production rate for formwork is, it is effectively the same as Googling it and finding the top article. So if we extend this logic out, and if you could Google something, it would probably be in the AI training base. But a lot of the time, the production rates you want to use for different tasks, how you want to break them up, it is all completely dependent on your business and your data. So rather than relying on AI, if you want it to prepare an estimate to come up with the values for production rates, cost, all this stuff, you simply always want to give it your own data. Now, there's way more complicated and cool ways you can do this, but basically how I've done it is I just have a business data file where I have all my cost, production rates, historic projects in an Excel spreadsheet, but you could do this with an Airtable register, or there's basically lots of different ways to do it. So barrier number 3 is hallucination, which is more or less similar to context rot, but it's more about the complexity of the task we ask AI to do. So what this chart is pretty much showing us is the success probability of asking AI to do a task compared to the human time to do the task. And basically, as you increase the duration of the task, you're increasing or you're decreasing the chance it does the task correctly. So all this means is if we ask AI to do a long, complicated task, again, like preparing an estimate, the chance that it does this correctly is much lower than if we break this down into steps. So if we take our estimating process and we break it down into extracting the requirements from the bid documents, then creating a pricing schedule, then going through and working out the cost for each item in the pricing schedule. And at each stage in this process, we've got a human in the loop. You can think of, there's all these interim check-ins. So the chance that AI goes off course, again, is as you increase the length and complexity of the task. If it's a 50-step process, you're basically saying if at each step there's a 5% chance that AI goes off course, then basically your chance of doing the task correctly is 0.95 to the power of 50, as opposed to if you ask it to do a 3-step task, it would be 0.95 to the power of 3.